Hey, welcome back. It's Breakdown. SEC versus the Big Ten. It is August the 6th. I'm sorry. It's March the 16th, and we're doing March Madness. It starts. We're going to do the SEC versus the Big Ten. It's always SEC versus the Big Ten. Why do we do SEC versus the Big Ten? Because Big Ten fans literally do not like SEC. These are two natural rivalries in that they both wants to be the alpha dog, and we're going to find out who's the alpha dog in this tournament. At least give you our predictions. We're going to start with with my name. My name is Joe McClure, and I'm here with my son JJ, and we're going to start out with the tournament. JJ, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. The first question: will COVID upset the tournament?
Hi, I'm JJ. Yeah, COVID will upset the tournament. It already has. As you may be well aware of, Virginia and Kansas are quarantining right now, waiting for their positive test to go negative as it pertains to COVID. But I think the COVID will upset the tournament. That's why we have 4 teams on deck in the event that does happen, ready, and not just one backup team. We have a few teams on, and I'm not sure if you know this, but did you know that the 4 officials were sent home yesterday?
I did not.
Yeah, I can't remember the names of any of them because I'm not well versed on all NCAA officials, but I did know that Teddy Valentine was one of them.
Do you know what conference they're with? Are they with multiple conferences?
I know Teddy isn't with it. No, these are like the premier officials. Like they
do multiple conferences.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Hopefully everyone has their brackets in front of them, and we're going to discuss these brackets today. JJ, Big Ten and SEC only. Give me your round 1 winners, and then give me your round 2 winners.
Okay. For the Big Ten, I have Iowa winning its round 1 game. I have Michigan winning its round 1 game. I have Purdue, Ohio State, Illinois, and Rutgers all winning their first round games.
Okay.
For the SEC, I have Arkansas, Tennessee, Alabama, and LSU winning their first round games.
So there's 6 teams from the SEC in the tournament, 9 teams from the Big Ten that are in the tournament. Based on your prediction right now, how many teams are coming out of round 1? Was 6 for the SEC. You got 4 coming out. How many did you have coming out? You had Arkansas, Alabama, LSU,
and Tennessee.
So you had 4 of the 6 coming out.
Yeah.
The 2 not coming out would be Missouri and Tennessee.
I had Tennessee.
I'm sorry, Missouri and
Florida.
Yeah. My bad. Okay, and then the Big Ten, you had how many coming out of the first round?
Probably the majority of them. I mean, half the teams that made the tournament from the Big Ten are either 1 or 2 seeds. So, I had Iowa, Michigan, Purdue, Ohio State, Illinois, and Rutgers. So that's 6.
Okay, so Maryland. I didn't hear Maryland.
And I'm not sure. Well, no, I do not have Maryland. I'm not sure. Are we counting Michigan State's matchup against UCLA as the first round, or is that like the pre-first round? It's like an audition.
Well, tell me what you think about it.
Well, I don't have the winner of that game advancing.
Do you have Michigan State beating?
I do have Michigan State beating UCLA.
Okay,
but
that's good, but not
BYU. I had BYU upsetting.
Did I hear you? Wisconsin was in that or not?
Oh, Wisconsin. I had Wisconsin losing North Carolina.
Okay, so we got Maryland losing, Wisconsin losing, basically Michigan State losing, and the others winning, if I heard you correctly.
That would be accurate.
Okay. In your mind, what team received favorable seeding?
Well, I think Michigan definitely received favorable seeding. It was a question mark whether or not they would retain their 1 seed once news broke about Isaiah Livers It's funny because I've never heard this stress injury. Normally, the word that follows stress is fracture, but Michigan has been very, very determined and pedantic about not using the word fracture after stress. So he has some type of stress injury. I guess they addressed it in time before it became a fracture. So he might be able to come back. But I would say Michigan has a favorable seed because how they play down the stretch, losing 3 of their last like 5 or 6 games, and one of their best players and their best two-way player.
Okay.
I also think Tennessee received a favorable matchup, a favorable seed with the 5-12 seed against Oregon State. But other than that, like I said, the Big Ten had four teams in the either be a 1 or 2 seed, so it's hard to argue and complain about too much of the seeding.
Okay. Did any team in your mind get an unfavorable seeding?
I do think there were a few teams that got unfavorable seedings, and other teams that got unfavorable matchups. But just to address your original question about seeding, I would say MSU got an unfavorable seeding. They've beaten 3 top 5 teams. I know they had a low net rating, but their KenPom ratings and their RPI were stronger than the play-in game would suggest. So I would say that they have a less than favorable seeding.
Okay, you mentioned some poor matchup. Who do you think has a poor matchup?
Illinois. I think Illinois has a horrible. I think the most underseeded team in the tournament is Loyola Chicago, and I think it's given that they beat Georgia Tech, which Georgia Tech did just win the ACC tournament, so it's not a given. But Loyola Chicago is they're better than an 8 seed, and the team that you do the most disservice to when you underseed a team is the team that team has to go up against.
Okay.
And also, just the location. I think a lot of the players on that team, probably weren't recruited to Illinois, so they might have a little chip on their shoulder about playing Illinois.
Yeah, that's a good point. They may know each other from high school if they're in the area. Lloyd, if I remember correctly, wasn't Loyola in the top 20 in the AP polls?
Yeah, they were in the top 20 in the AP poll. They had they not won their conference tournament, had they not won the Missouri Valley, they still would have probably been a 9 seed or 10 seed. So I don't think that they
improved their seeding by winning their conference tournament.
Even though I think that they should have.
Okay.
And just to mention the other unfavorable matchup, I would say is if Iowa makes it that far, I think playing Gonzaga again isn't really fair to either team, but definitely not Iowa.
I'm not so sure. If I think back of the NFL playoffs when New Orleans, I believe, beat Tampa Bay in the regular season pretty handily, but then when it came time to play for the Marbles, Tampa Bay took care of business. So if Iowa can take care of business when it counts, then that's all that really matters. That's just my take on it. What first round games would you characterize as a tune-up game?
Well, pretty much all of the Big Ten's games where they're seeded 4 or higher, like 1, 2, 3, or 4. Those are all seem to be tune-up games for them. Iowa has Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon is pretty good, but I don't see Iowa having any trouble with them. Mount St. Mary's or Texas Southern, I don't really see Michigan struggling to get past either one of those teams. I just think Alabama is the only one of the top 2 seeds I think actually has a real challenge. They're coached by they're going up against Iona, who is coached by Rick Pitino, who I think is the best college basketball coach I've ever seen in my lifetime. So I don't think that they will have a coaching advantage. They should have a talent advantage. Iona finished, I think, 8th in their conference, the MAAC, so they're not the most talented team in the country, but that's the one game I would say is not a tune-up. But all of the top 1, 2 seeds, I think all the other ones are, those are usually tune-ups, right?
Okay. What first round game intrigues you the most? Is it probably the Alabama-Ionia game that you just spoke of, or are there any other?
Oh, there's a few first round. games involving the Big Ten and SEC that intrigue me.
Okay.
Oklahoma, Missouri is very interesting to me. Oklahoma, they can light it up. They can score with the best of them, and Missouri has a great defense. So I think that's an interesting matchup.
You've taken Oklahoma in that game.
I do take Oklahoma in that game. I like they have a transfer guard, Austin Reeves from Wichita State, originally an Arkansas native. He can score from anywhere, 3 levels, the perimeter, mid range, at the rim. I like him, and they have a big man who can shoot the 3. Who's been there? He was a freshman with Trae Young. I can't remember his name, but I really like his game. He has a nice inside-outside game that I think bodes well for the NCAA tournament. So I have Oklahoma beating Missouri.
Well, I'm going to say if Missouri can get back to their form early in the season, which I think they will, I'm taking Missouri in that game. What other intriguing first-round matchups you got?
LSU St. Bonaventure is a great matchup. St. Bonaventure is the other team I think is criminally underseeded. Ken Pom has them ranked as a top 25 team, and they have LSU as the 29th best team, so Ken Pom thinks that they should be the 8th seed or higher. They also have – it's also a good matchup between contrasting styles. LSU has a top 5 offense, and St. Bonaventure has a top 20 defense. So as long as the referees allow them to play a little bit, they have a big man. St. Bonaventure does his name Osan, who, as long as he doesn't get in foul trouble, he can kind of guard the paint and man that, and I like to see that.
He will outplay Watford in your mind?
Yeah, Watford and Days. I mean, well, that's the thing. Like they're inside outside guys. They're not strictly.
Okay.
I think in the post and in the interior he will, but
Okay.
if they can bring him out, then we'll see. I mean, that's why the matchup is so intriguing. Let's see.
Okay.
Which person's will dominate. Some other intriguing games I like MSU, UCLA. That's 2 juggernauts, 2 top 10 programs of all time going against each other in the first 4. So that's.
And you got Michigan State taking out UCLA.
I do, but that's admittedly I have not seen that many UCLA games this year. The Pac-12 didn't get the most of my attention.
Okay.
But I watched USC a lot because they have Evan Mobley and just because of their NBA talent. I did not, unfortunately, watch enough UCLA games. But they are coached by Mick Cronin, and I've seen enough of him at Cincinnati to know the type of team he'll have, and that should be a really good defensive matchup.
Well, let's just assume that Michigan State win the game. How do you see the matchup with BYU?
Oh, I love that matchup. BYU is like Purdue, and I don't say that just because they have a Purdue transfer, 7'4" transfer for Purdue, Harms playing there. But did you watch any of the Gonzaga BYU first half game?
The second game I did. The tournament game I did.
Did you see BYU miss much?
They were hot.
Yeah, they can get hot. They have some mid 2000s Wisconsin, early 2010s Purdue in their DNA. So I like that. They pass the ball incredibly well. They compensate for their lack of athleticism and by making sure the ball moves faster than any player could. And they're all confident. There's a lot of guys that are mature. BYU doesn't have a lot of 18-year-old guys on the team. They have a lot of seasoned veterans, we'll say.
Okay.
Even their freshmen are, usually coming off of missionary trips or whatever, so they're like 20, 21. So I think that they're not going to be scared by the name UCLA, the name Michigan State. I think they're just going to come out, handle their business, and execute. So.
Well, I see BYU winning that game as well, but I will be pulling for Michigan State, my alma mater. Any other intriguing games or that you haven't already mentioned?
Maryland UConn should be a pretty good game. Neither team is the program of old, but Maryland has a couple of dynamic guards in Aaron Wiggins and Eric Ayala, and UConn does too. And it's a good brand name matchup. 7-10 games. It's not really an upset if Maryland were to win that one, but it should be a good matchup.
I actually think UConn is playing some really, really good basketball. Maryland is an up and down team, but they looked really good in some games I saw them, and then I don't know if they got tired in the Big Ten tournament or what, but they played a good tournament in the Big Ten as well, but they may have worn themselves down. I agree. I think it's going to be a very good game. It's a good matchup.
Yeah.
I think.
Is there any other games that you were thinking of?
Uh, Not really. I do want to speak on the Arkansas Cold.
I thought you might want to. It's a popular upset. People are saying that the selection of Colgate.
You know what? I see Arkansas winning by as many as Musselman want to win by. Personally, Arkansas will have Williams back. Uh, Arkansas has played better competition. They played a greater variety of competition. Colgate has played 5 teams. I think they may have played Army 4 or 5 times. Some other teams 4 or 5 times. Altogether, it's like 5 teams. So I don't think they have. I don't even though they've only lost one game. I don't think they've been tested. And Arkansas is a quality team all around. A very versatile team. I just don't see it being close. So I hope you're not one of those. Oh no, you didn't say you were picking the upset. I think this will be a runaway. That's just my own personal opinion.
I've seen one half of a Colgate game all year. Like, I am not qualified to speak intelligently on that. But I do know that they only lost one game, and it's hard to beat a team that's only lost one game. I don't care who you're playing. Like, you play the same teams over and over again, and you keep beating them. I think that they've established the hierarchy in their league, and I don't know. We'll see. But I hope Eric Musselman isn't taking them as lightly as. I know he isn't.
Okay, that I get the right to do that.
Well, yeah.
Okay. Which teams, and you mentioned it earlier as we started the program, and I just want to go over the teams that should only pack for one game and why.
Well, obviously, I spoiled it at the top, but Missouri and Florida, I wouldn't bring an overnight bag. You can bring probably a backpack. For
Okay,
that.
you've gone over the Missouri Oklahoma game pretty thoroughly.
Yeah.
Tell me why Florida will lose to Virginia Tech.
Florida's just been inconsistent. They were really hot when Keontae Johnson first went down, and they lost that game, Florida State.
But just so we know, Florida is a 7 seed, and Virginia Tech is
they are technically the favored seed. I think Virginia Tech played. They have less losses. They come from a league that I think is tests you a little bit more than the SEC might have done this year. I just don't believe in Florida. I've watched Florida play a lot, and I think they can lose to anybody. I don't believe in Mike White as a coach that much, and I don't believe in Florida.
I watched them play a little bit, a few games, 4 or 5, and to me, I think this is a pick'em game. I really do. Florida, to me, they still have good stats as a team.
Yeah,
they just need to be able to translate those stats into wins. And as you said, anybody can beat Florida, and at the same time, I think Florida can beat a lot of teams. I obviously there's some team they can't beat, but I call this a pick'em. But
yeah,
we'll see what happens on Thursday.
Yeah, I'm not like super convinced that Florida has no chance. I mean, I think that Florida goes as Trey Man goes, but I just think Virginia Tech, they're a good story. They were picked to finish, I think, if not last, close to the bottom of the ACC, and they were showing some resiliency, and they've played pretty well.
Okay, what other school you have as a packing for one game only?
Wisconsin. I don't believe in North Carolina either. So that one was a coin flip, but they've just been fading down the stretch.
I will agree.
It wouldn't surprise me if they made an Elite Eight run just based on like all of their senior leadership, and like I think that they do have talent, but at the same time, like they haven't done enough to prove that in the second half of the season that that team is still around. So I would not be taking Wisconsin to go far.
What other school? Have we gone through all the one and done?
Missouri,
You mentioned those.
Michigan State, Wisconsin, Florida.
That's it?
On to the next, yeah.
Okay. Well, there are no first round matchup between SEC and Big Ten. Potentially, there could be 3 second round matchup. We could have a Michigan LSU. We could have a Maryland Alabama. We could have an Ohio State Florida State. Let's start with Ohio State, Florida State. If that were to happen, just hypothetically, what's your take on that game?
I think Ohio State would be able to pick the number that they win by if that were to happen. I don't see Florida State getting past Virginia Tech, but I really don't see Florida State getting past, Florida getting past Ohio State.
Is there any area where Florida could compete with Ohio State?
Yeah, I mean, they're point guard. I mean, I think that there are areas that's an area where they might have a slight advantage, but I think Ohio State has the most advantages.
So in the first 2 rounds, we'll chalk this one up to the Big Ten if that happens. The Maryland Alabama potential matchup in the second round. What's your take on that one?
That would be a good game if it were to manifest for sure. Alabama plays up and down. They've had top 10 offense and defense all year. Regular season champs, tourney champs. They have Shackelford, Petty, Jones. They have all the first team SEC guys. And Maryland, I think that their strength is in their backcourt. Wiggins and Iola, I think they both average about 15 points a game. And that'll be hard for Alabama to stop their dynamic backcourt. I believe the guard play is what is the engine that championship teams run on. So I think Maryland has a chance against Bama, but I think Alabama is just too complete a team.
Okay, so we have Alabama there. I do think that could be a tough draw for Alabama, but I too think Alabama is the more complete team.
Yeah.
But going to the next potential SEC Big Ten matchup, it's the one that intrigues me the most, and I want you to analyze and evaluate this one for me. That the Michigan LSU, that's a potential second round matchup. Give me your take on that game if it happens.
Provided Michigan's best two-way player is not in that game, I think that could be a real advantage for LSU. Michigan is a very good defensive team. They're very versatile. They have a lot of ways to beat you. But Isaiah Livers was like the imprint on the team. Like they followed in his mindset, and his key was versatility. And I think without him, Michigan becomes a decidedly less versatile team. I think Mike Smith is someone that you can attack. He's the point guard for Michigan. He's like, I don't know what he's listed at, but he looks to be 5'9", 5'8". He is a defensive liability. And I think LSU has the guards with Cam Thomas, Javonte Smart, that they could just attack him. And that's a point of weakness. But at the same time, I mean, he did have, in a Big Ten tournament game, he had like 15 assists and no turnovers. So Mike Smith is a great conductor and maestro of the offense. He was a great scorer when he was at Columbia, and now he's a great setup man. I think he's like top 5 in the Big Ten in assists. So,
okay, LSU is pretty proficient in their offense. You mentioned their guards, and earlier we mentioned some of their big men and Day and all. I think that LSU has the advantage in the guards in this thing. I love Cam Thomas. And Smart is probably the best money that LSU paid for me in getting him. But where does Michigan have the advantage at in this game?
Oh, interior. They don't have anyone that could match up with Hunter Dickinson. Like, from a size perspective, that's not... I mean, Michigan's the better defensive team. I think Michigan has an advantage in every spot except for the guards. I think they have better depth. I do like Will Wade as a coach. I think Juwan Howard, he did win Big Ten Coach of the Year. I think Will Wade can match up with him as a coach. I do like Will Wade as a coach, but I think Michigan has better depth. I think that they have a more versatile offense. I mean, Franz Wagner. It depends on if you count Franz Wagner as a guard or not. He's 6'10". He's like a wing swingman. Yeah, they don't really have anyone like just his size is going to be a problem for LSU.
Okay.
The size of Michigan in general, Hunter Dickinson. Yeah, even without Isaiah Livers, I think I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan didn't struggle too much with LSU or St. Bonaventure, even without Isaiah Livers. But I do think LSU does have the advantage when it comes to guards.
Okay. It's just the matchup that intrigues me the most. So I'm looking forward to seeing that game for sure. Hopefully it will happen. And just to get the record straight, if that does happen, you are going with LSU?
I did pick LSU to upset Michigan in the second round if they were to meet.
Okay, so potentially the three Big Ten SEC matchup that could happen in the second round, the only one you got winning from the Big Ten is Ohio State beating Florida. You have Alabama beating Maryland and LSU beating Michigan.
Well, the only one I actually have is LSU beating Michigan. The other two, I don't have Florida or Maryland making it to Ohio State or Maryland.
Understood. But if that were to happen,
Yeah.
that's what you would have. Okay, very good. What players from these teams do you see making a major statement in this tournament? Or would you expect to make a major statement?
I think the obvious one is Ayu Dosunmu right now. He's just riding a wave of momentum that's unparalleled. Now, obviously, Luka Garza will be National Player of the Year. He'll be the Naismith Player of the Year. He'll be the Wooden Player of the Year. He was just announced the only unanimous first team.
Okay, let's just say this. Luka Garza is with Iowa, right?
Yeah, if you don't know who Luka Garza is, he is with Iowa. He is the guy who's going to win the Player of the Year. But he doesn't have the ball in his hands. He can't control the game the way that guards can. That's kind of why I'm going to go with Ayu Dosunmu. I definitely think he's like the obvious guy from any of the Big Ten or SEC schools.
Any other teams?
Oh, yeah. I mean
the players.
His teammate Kofi Coburn, he's a load down in the middle that most teams don't have anyone that can match up with him. And they play 4 out, so you have to. I mean, either he feasts or somebody's going to be open because you have to double team him. So I think I like Kofi Coburn, Geo Baker, and Ron Harper Jr. from Rutgers. That's a dynamic backcourt. I think either one of them can take over a game at any moment in time. Sticking with the Big Ten, Travion Williams for Purdue. You can throw inside into him, and he'll pretty much get a bucket. All the time. Also, it is Purdue. I think is the only team from the state of Indiana that will be in Indianapolis for the tournament. So, I think that might be a little feather in his cap. Also, that reminds me, Aaron Henry from Michigan State. He's from Indianapolis, Indiana. He might have a little fan base, a popular fan base, or some type of homegrown advantage. But I like those players. I really think Dwayne Washington and E.J. Liddell from Ohio State could go on a run that could lead to a national championship. Dwayne Washington, he gets buckets. You cannot stop him. You hate to see a guy from Grand Rapids, Michigan, go to that school down south, but he did it. And Ohio State is thriving because of it. And E.J. Liddell, he reminds me of maybe diet Carmelo Anthony. I don't think he's exactly Carmelo Anthony, but he's just his inside outside tweener game was very spectacular to see. So I would say that those would be the Big Ten players to watch out for. SEC, I'd have to go with Moses Moody.
My man.
I think.
My man.
Yeah, just the way he plays. He's not like the fastest guy in the world, like when it comes to like foot speed, but his brain just he processes so quickly. Like it's unbelievable as a freshman, honestly. He does everything well. Like he might, I mean, he's not, you know, he's not the point guard, but he's a great passer. He's not a post player, but he's a great rebounder. He makes up for anything that Arkansas needs, and I just think that once the world sees him on a national stage, I think he could really shine brightly. And also Herbert Jones from Alabama. I just think his versatility, 6'8" point guard, point forward. He can grab it and go, lead the break. He's so smart. He's not the best shooter, but John Petty is one of the best shooters, and he's, a 6'6" guy on the wing that Herbert Jones always seems to find. I think Herb Jones is can leave an imprint on this tournament for sure.
Okay. And I'm going to go with one player also from LSU, that freshman of the year.
Cam Thomas.
Cam Thomas. Will he be back at LSU next year?
Well, he won't get drafted in the first round.
Okay.
Depends on how much he likes playing in the G League, I guess.
Okay. I'm just gonna see. I expect him to have a big tournament, and I do expect him to go kind of deep into this tournament, LSU. Now that we've gone through most of these right here, what I want to come back to is after rounds 1 and 2, we're down to 16 teams. Give me your Sweet 16 from an SEC Big Ten perspective. So it won't be 16 teams, but how many teams from the SEC and the Big Ten do you see playing in the Sweet 16?
Okay, the Sweet 16. I have I have 3 teams from the SEC making it to the Sweet 16. And I have 4 teams from the Big Ten make it to the Sweet 16.
Okay. The 3 that you have from the SEC, LSU, Alabama, and Arkansas.
Yep.
Okay. I'm just going to say for the record, I have Tennessee making it to the Sweet 16 as well.
Even with John Fulgerson, like with his eye, and he's probably...
That's true. I forgot about that.
I think Cade Cunningham might have something for him in the second, in that round. I don't know.
Oklahoma State has been on a roll. That's true.
Yes.
I don't know. I still say Tennessee showed a lot of heart in the SC tournament game against Alabama. I don't know. That's just me. But you got LSU, good pick. Alabama, good pick. Arkansas. Okay, that's the SEC wrap up from JJ's perspective. Give me your Big Ten wrap up for the Sweet 16. You had 4 teams.
I have Rutgers upsetting Houston and making it to Sweet 16.
Whoa.
I have Illinois in the Sweet 16. I have Ohio State in the Sweet 16. And I have the hometown hero Purdue Boilermakers making it to the Sweet 16.
Wow. So you have no one from Saturday's games making it to the Sweet 16.
Apparently not.
So who's going to beat Iowa?
It's not going to be VCU or Grand Canyon. So I'll let you...
So you're saying Oregon State is going to... Oregon
I
is
am
going...
not saying Oregon State.
Oregon is going to beat Iowa.
I do have Oregon beating Iowa.
See, I got Iowa in the Sweet 16.
Well,
but I do not have Rutgers. I like Rutgers. Man, Houston only lost 3 games this year. They're a 2 seed.
Yeah.
Rutgers is a 10 seed.
Yeah. And if they had flipped schedules, Rutgers would be the 2 seed, and then Houston might not be in the tournament. Houston has only lost 3 games, but Houston, to borrow your argument that you made against Colgate, I don't know. I just don't. I don't believe in. I've watched Houston a lot this year, and I think they have a great coach. I think they have undersized players, and I don't think that they match up well with Rutgers whatsoever. I think they're going to get out rebounded, and I don't think that they match up well with Rutgers. I think there are teams that Houston could, advance to an Elite Eight against, some quality teams. I just think Rutgers has has the size.
Well, speaking of Rutgers, and like I said, I've been a fan of Rutgers all year long, but I actually do have Clemson beating them in the first round. Why will Rutgers beat Clemson in round one?
Because of Geo Baker, Ron Harper Jr.
Okay.
I like their guard play. Clemson is the last team to beat Georgia Tech, the ACC tournament champions. Clemson is good. It might be biased. I've definitely seen Rutgers play more than I've seen Clemson play. I remember the game where Michigan State couldn't do anything against Rutgers, and they lost by 30 points, and they didn't even score 40.
I remember that game as well.
I just believe in Rutgers. Their coach, his name is Steve, I think something. I can't remember his last name, but I like his demeanor. I like his style. I like the way that he plays. His teams play.
Well, okay, we've gone through the first round. We will be back with you again prior to the Sweet 16 and give you our Sweet 16 and Grade 8, Elite 8 picks and breakdown. And hopefully there are some SEC Big Ten matchups in those games as well. Any closing remark, JJ?
No. It should be a fun tournament. It's going to be 2 years in the making, so...
Let the madness begin. That's it from Breakdown, SEC versus Big Ten. Come back next week or next time. Thank you.
Yeah, see you then.